The ash-gray Bentley came to a sharp stop in front of a grocery store in the West End. Inside the car, Vincent Langford, a young billionaire, handsome, notoriously extravagant, and recently widowed for less than a year, was growing increasingly irritated over a stream of emails from the executive board. His morning coffee had gone cold, his assistant had called in sick, and the board was pressuring him to approve mass layoffs. But more than anything else, what truly bothered him was the emptiness. He walked into the store with his cap pulled low, hoping to avoid recognition. All he needed was a moment of peace. A carton of almond milk, and then he'd disappear. At the end of the bread aisle, a woman struggled to keep two children from fighting over the last pack of cookies. The little girl around 5 had a round face and frizzy hair tied into 2 puffballs. The older boy, maybe 8, passionately lectured her on fairness. The woman wore a faded t-shirt, short and full-figured, but her eyes were unexpectedly sharp. She was Tasha Monroe, a single mother, one of millions of women trying to survive daily with a bag of discounted groceries and a heart that had broken more times than she could count. As Vincent turned to avoid the scene, a delivery worker pushed a large, overloaded cart into the aisle. He bumped into it, and Tasha's grocery bag spilled across the floor. A bottle shattered. A carton of milk spilled across the tile. The 2 children fell silent. Tasha exhaled wearily and bent down to pick up the mess. "I'm sorry," Vincent said, his voice low, slightly flustered. Without looking up, Tasha replied softly, "It's all right. Happens. I'll pay for it." "No need. Maybe I'll deduct it next time you bump into me in the parking lot." She still didn't look at him, but when she finally did, their eyes met. Strangely, Vincent didn't feel embarrassed. He felt curious. Then he felt admiration. The way she remained composed amidst the chaos, the way she spoke without flattery, without fear. No one had spoken to him like that since his wife died. He looked at the kids, then back at Tasha. "I'm Vincent, Tasha, and that's Ava and Jaden." Ava raised her hand. "Are you an action movie star, mister?" Vincent laughed. Tasha blushed, stammering. "Sorry about her. She has an active imagination." But he crouched down, looked straight at Ava, and said, "I'm a villain, but I'm learning to be good." Jaden, skeptical, shot back immediately. "Do villains know how to buy milk?" The question made Tasha laugh, a tired but genuine laugh. Vincent thanked them, took a few steps back, about to leave. But he turned around and pulled a handkerchief from his coat pocket. He handed it to Tasha and said, "There's milk on your dress. This one's clean." "You don't have to." "But I want to." Her hand brushed against his as she took it. Just a light touch, but it was enough to make him feel something he hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe it was life. Perhaps it was what people call fate. The next day, Vincent Langford was at a small diner on a quiet southern street corner. It wasn't listed in any Michelin guide, nor the place someone like him would frequent. But somehow, after a sleepless night, he recalled the smile of the little girl named Ava, Tasha's sharp yet proud eyes, and the boy Jaden's question, "Do villains know how to buy milk?" Vincent sat by the window, holding a cup of cold coffee, eyes fixed on the street outside. He didn't know what he was waiting for, or who. And then, the strange thing happened. Tasha walked in. She wore an old coat, carrying a modest shopping bag, and had her 2 children closely following. Her eyes passed over Vincent, just briefly, not surprised and not annoyed, but as if she had known this would happen. "We meet again," Vincent said, rising to his feet. "Yeah, this city's smaller than it looks." Ava waved enthusiastically. Jaden looked at him with half-curious, half-suspicious eyes. Vincent crouched down and said, Yesterday I didn't properly thank you for not making me pay for the spilled milk. Tasha squinted. Are you trying to buy breakfast as repayment? Seems like it. She hesitated, then nodded slightly. Only if you agree to eat overcooked muffins and sit at a table with a kid who asks 100 questions per minute. They sat at a small table across from each other. The meal began with simple stories. Ava showed off her drawings. Jaden asked if Vincent had ever flown a private jet, and Tasha quietly observed. Vincent didn't brag. He spoke of his childhood in rural Wisconsin days, of eating canned tuna sandwiches his first time in a big city and sleeping in his car. And about the void left after his wife's death, something he never dared talk about too deeply. Tasha didn't pry, but she listened. After breakfast, as the trio prepared to leave, Ava tugged at Vincent's sleeve. Will you come to the park on Sunday? Mommy says Sunday is a special day. Vincent smiled. Why is it special? Because it's the day Mommy finishes washing the blankets, so we run around all day. Tasha looked embarrassed and shook her head slightly. The kids think everything's magic. Maybe they're right, Vincent replied. Then he turned to Ava. I'll be at the park on Sunday. And if there is magic, maybe we'll meet again. Jefferson Park on a Sunday was usually filled with noise and laughter. But for Vincent Langford, a man who once attended million-dollar yacht galas and sat front row at private concerts, nothing felt more unfamiliar than simplicity. He wore a gray turtleneck sweater and jeans, something he hadn't done in over a decade. Vincent walked along the leaf-strewn paths. In his hand was a bag of cookies he'd bought himself. No assistant, no private chef. The faint scent of burnt butter reminded him of that breakfast. And then he saw them. Ava was running in circles around a giant oak, her red scarf fluttering in the wind like a ribbon of freedom. Jaden was trying to build a small tent using a picnic blanket. Tasha sat on a bench holding a worn book, her head slightly bowed. Her face was relaxed, but her eyes were never far from her kids. Vincent paused for a second. He didn't know why his heartbeat changed from such an ordinary scene. No burnt edges this time, but will you forgive me? Vincent called out as he approached Ava. The little girl squealed with joy. Jaden gave Vincent his usual wary look, but he didn't turn away this time. Tasha looked up surprised. I didn't think you'd come. Vincent sat beside her, placing the bag of cookies on the wooden table. I used to be a man of my word, before I forgot who I was. They watched the kids play. Tasha asked softly, You never told me what you do for a living. Vincent gave a half smile. I invest, and lost quite a lot while trying to stuff the world into a portfolio. Lost your wife? Tasha asked gently. It wasn't pity, just understanding. He nodded. 3 years ago. I'm not good with silence, so I started buying fake noise. Tasha said nothing, but for the first time her gaze no longer held caution. It held clarity, like she saw something real in him. The children had finally built their fort using blankets and tree branches. Ava ran over and tugged Vincent's hand. You be the king. Mommy's the queen. Jaden says. I'm the princess. Tasha laughed, though her eyes hesitated. Ava, don't pressure him. But Vincent was already standing, brushing his hands off. Never been a king. But if your kingdom allows jeans, I accept. Laughter rang out, and for a moment, they were a nameless family. As dusk began to fall, Vincent stood Tasha. I have a charity auction next weekend. No press, no publicity, just people I trust. Tasha looked at him, eyebrows slightly furrowed. And what am I exactly? Someone I want sitting at my table. Tasha didn't answer. Ava chimed in. Mommy's gonna wear a dress, right? A princess dress. Tasha laughed. But to Vincent, the answer was in her eyes. For the first time, they didn't avoid him. They didn't deny him. They said, wait and see. The marble hall glowed under the light of hundreds of crystal chandeliers, their reflections dancing across the Italian marble floors. The annual charity auction hosted by Langford Corporation was always the gathering place of the city's deepest pockets. Entrepreneurs, designers, philanthropists, and the socialites desperate to have their names etched into elite circles. Tasha never imagined herself walking into a place like this. Her dress was rented. Sapphire is blue, long-sleeved and form-fitting, but not flashy. Her hair was tied up and accented by faux pearl earrings. No one knew her shoes were clearance finds from an outlet down the street. But her stride was steady, her head held high. Vincent met her at the entrance. Tonight, he wore a black tuxedo. Nothing flashy, but the way he looked at her like she was something money couldn't buy drew more than a few glances. Some snickered, some raised eyebrows, but most were intrigued. "Are you sure I'm not violating the dress code?" Tasha smiled. "You are the dress code," Vincent replied. Short, sincere. They entered together like a gust of wind blowing against the polished symmetry of a room full of sculpted faces. Tasha didn't say much. She quietly observed, $500 glasses of wine. Laughter is too carefully timed. Compliments without weight. And then a woman approached, Tallulah Crane, partner at an investment firm collaborating with Langford Group. Tall, lean, platinum blonde with eyes sharp as blades. "Vincent, how unexpected. I didn't think you would. Bring someone." The way she stressed bring was the politest form of insult. Tasha extended her hand, her smile unwavering. "Tasha Evans. Lovely to meet you." Tallulah shook her hand, then tilted her head. "Evans. Don't recall seeing that name on the list of philanthropic CEOs. I'm not on any list. I'm a mother of two, a stockroom worker at Kingmart, and someone who knows how not to spill wine when judged." Tallulah paused, then scoffed. Vincent took Tasha's hand. "Tasha is the first person who told me I was wrong, and the first person who made me want to be right." Tallulah turned away. It was a battle fought without raised voices, but everyone could see who walked away first. The auction began. Paintings, rare wines, luxury vacations. People raised paddles with their hands, reputations, and pride. Tasha sat quietly, not participating. But then a particular item came up, a sponsorship package for 100 inner-city scholarships. Vincent suddenly stood. "I'd like to open with $200,000. The room stirred. From across the room, Tallulah let out a soft laugh. "Vincent's newfound generosity is refreshing." Tasha looked at Vincent. He leaned in, whispering, "I did not understand the value of a free meal for a child. You and your two little angels taught me that." When the auction ended and the lights dimmed, Tasha stood by the balcony railing looking over the glittering city skyline. Vincent approached. "They'll say you don't belong here." "Maybe," Tasha replied, "but I didn't come to belong. I came to walk in, hold my head high, and walk out without losing myself." Vincent took her hand. "For the first time in years, I don't want to leave a place just because it's quiet, but because someone is standing there waiting for me." Sunday morning. Vincent Langford woke up in his luxurious penthouse curtains, still drawn the sun not yet high enough to chase away the familiar emptiness. Usually by now, he'd be scrolling through his investment portfolio, sipping espresso over a multi-million-dollar contract. But today was different. He picked up his phone, not to check the markets, but to reread a text from the night before. "I have to work tomorrow, but the kids will be home. If you want to understand me, start with them." Vincent had smirked when he read it. But now, standing outside the door of a third-floor apartment in a worn-down building on the city's south side, his palms were sweating. The door creaked open. A round-faced boy with wide eyes looked up at him. "Are you the handsome man?" the boy asked so seriously that Vincent chuckled. "Possibly. And you must be Teddy," he replied, then turned and shouted inside Tasha. "The handsome man is here." A chubby little girl with a mess of curly hair appeared. She didn't smile. She crossed her arms and looked Vincent up and down skeptical. Mom said you're watching us. Can you make instant noodles? Vincent nodded. He had never made them, but he nodded. And that was the start of a day he'd never forget. Breakfast was chaos, boiling water spilled over noodles, 2 soft eggs burnt on the edges. Teddy ate happily anyway. Sasha quietly set her chopsticks down. It's burnt. My mom never burns food. Vincent scratched his head. I didn't do great, but I'll learn. Like I'll learn how not to forget the way back here. Sasha raised an eyebrow, lips twitching slightly. Not a smile, but softer. The 3 played puzzles. Then Vincent took them to a nearby park. There are no bodyguards, no luxury cars, just a man in an old hoodie borrowed from Tasha, sitting on a bench, sketching a unicorn per Teddy's request. A while later, Sasha sat beside him. Her small hand placed a stone into his palm. My mom does that when I'm sad. She gives someone something to hold for her. Are you sad? Vincent froze. It had been so long. He didn't know what sadness felt anymore, because he had nothing to lose, no one to miss. He closed his fingers around the stone. Maybe I am, but thank you for helping me hold it. Late afternoon. Tasha returned the scent of butter and vinegar, still clinging to her apron. She opened the door and saw her children fast asleep on the couch. Vincent sat cross-legged nearby, reading Goodnight Moon, his voice calm and steady. The scene made her heart stumble. Vincent looked up. She said I had to read it 3 times before she'd fall asleep. Tasha walked closer softly, saying, You could teach them something extravagant, like which fork to use in a restaurant with 3 knives. But today, you taught me something else. What's that? That the man once dubbed New York's coldest heart can accept a bowl of burnt noodles. 3 days after that historic babysitting day, Vincent Langford became the hottest name on social media. Not because of his takeover deal with a Nordic banking chain, not because of the new Ferrari he had just bought, but because of a photo of him tying the shoelace of a chubby little girl in a small park on the city's south side. A passing young mother had snapped the photo captioned, Is billionaire Vincent Langford babysitting? Does anyone know who the lucky woman is? Within 24 hours, the hashtag #billionaire. Babysits shot to #1 on Twitter. The media went wild. Tabloids started digging. And then they found Tasha. That morning, she was preparing breakfast deliveries when her phone buzzed non-stop. Messages, emails, notifications. She opened one and froze. Tasha Brown, the short, overweight woman dating widowed billionaire Vincent Langford. From diner waitress to $1 million penthouse. A real-life Cinderella story. Then came the comment sections. He's probably doing charity work. She's using her kids as bait, you can tell. Billionaire falls for the maid, how original Hollywood. Tasha gripped her phone, hands trembling. Not from shame, but because her children Teddy and Sasha were sitting just a few feet away reading on their iPads. That night, Vincent showed up at the diner. No bodyguards, no sunglasses, no attempt to hide. Tasha waited for him after closing. Her eyes weren't red. She wasn't angry. But she looked sad. A sadness that made Vincent feel like no kind of king at all. You knew this day would come, didn't you? She asked. I did. But I could protect you. The kids. And now, the whole neighborhood knows we're not from the same world. Did you think you could save me from that? Vincent sat down on a worn wooden chair. Tasha, what we have, this isn't some project I'm here to fix. I don't see you as a victim. You're the only person who's made me want to stop running. She turned away. Vincent, I once lived inside a man's pity. He left me with 2 kids and a mountain of debt. I can't step into another relationship where I'm supposed to be grateful just for being chosen. Vincent said nothing. Then, from his coat pocket, he pulled out a printed newspaper. Right on the cover was the infamous photo plastered with a mocking headline. He picked up a pen and wrote across the image, "For the first time in my life, I knelt for something I truly respected." He folded the paper and handed it to her. "You don't have to say anything. Just don't let the world's noise steal the truest thing we've found." The next morning, the street was as busy as always, but Tasha's little diner was unusually empty. The door was shut, no on leave sign, no messages. Vincent stood outside the diner calling Tasha, but there was no answer. He called again, then a third time. A soft beep sounded from the smartwatch he had once gifted Sasha, the one she had accidentally synced to her mother's phone. Last known location, East City Bus Station. Vincent's heart sank into his stomach. Flashback to the night before. Tasha sat alone, eyes fixed on the newspaper Vincent had left behind. Then a text pinged from an unknown number. "You know this is just a game. Walk away, Tasha. Don't let your kids get hurt because of your stupid decisions." Attached was a photo of Teddy at his school playground. Back to the present. Vincent raced to the East Bus Station. No one in sight. Only one thing remained: Teddy's green dinosaur backpack under a bench. He unzipped it, and inside was a messy crayon drawing. Vincent holding Teddy's hand with Sasha and Tasha beside them. On top, in misspelled letters, "Uncle Vincent is not scary anymore." Vincent's chest clenched tight. Across social media, tabloids flooded with old photos of Vincent wild parties, leggy models, drunken nights. One article from a major news outlet was going viral: America's new father figure. The same man once sued for bar assault. Vincent called his former attorney Clay, who had handled all his past scandals. "Who's trying to destroy me this time?" Vincent asked, wind roaring as his car sped down the highway. Clay paused. "No one, except your mother. She just funded a campaign called Protecting Traditional American Family Values. My guess, she's not planning to let you marry a black single mom." Vincent laughed, a bitter, broken laugh of someone who just realized he'd been pushed off the edge. At that moment, Tasha was at a small shelter she used to donate to back when she was just a waitress. Not because she was afraid of Vincent, but because she feared the hate being unleashed on her children. Sasha asked, "Mom, why are people calling you a gold digger? We don't even have gold." Tasha held her daughter, tears spilling, not because she was hurt, but because she didn't know how to answer for the first time in her life. Meanwhile, Vincent walked into an impromptu press conference set up by the company board. In front of him, dozens of reporters. Beside him, his mother, Millionaire Langford, standing tall, icy cold, with eyes that did not accept resistance. Millionaire spoke first. "The Langford family has never and will never be influenced by impulsive decisions, driven by emotion." Vincent sat beside her in silence, until a reporter asked Mr. Langford, "Is it true you're planning to marry an overweight black woman with 2 children from another man?" Laughter erupted in the room. Eleanor nodded slightly, as if waiting for Vincent to deny it. But he didn't laugh. He pulled the microphone close. "I'm not planning to marry her." His mother smiled faintly, but then he continued, "I am marrying the only woman who's ever made me want to be a better man." The room exploded in shock. Eleanor slammed her hand on the table. Vincent looked straight into the cameras. "If anyone here deserves to be investigated, it's me. Because for the first time I realized I was the villain. And now I want to spend the rest of my life making it right. Not for PR, but for Teddy and Sasha. And for their mother." Late afternoon. The last golden rays of sunlight poured through the glass windows of Millionaire Langford's executive office, the powerful woman behind Langford and Associates. On her desk lay a stack of fresh headlines. "Billionaire Vincent Langford admits to loving black single mother on live television. She wasn't angry. Eleanor never got angry. She calculated. She picked up the phone. Initiate the process of provisional inheritance dissolution. The personal attorney on the other end hesitated. Are you certain, ma'am? I didn't spend nearly 30 years investing in a son just to have him destroy the family bloodline and legacy over some foolish infatuation. Meanwhile, Vincent tracked down Tasha. She and her children were temporarily staying in a small back room behind an old friend's house, Ms. Darlene, once a fellow waitress at the diner. Tasha stood in the doorway when Vincent arrived. She was holding a pack of diapers. Her face wasn't angry, just quiet. You shouldn't be here, she said. Tasha, you disappeared on me. You ran. I can't take it. She looked up at him. It's not you I'm afraid of. I'm afraid my kids will get hurt. Someone threatened us, Vincent. I know. I'm going to find out who's behind it. Actually, I think I already do. Vincent held out his phone, showing her an email from the Langford Corporation, notice of temporary suspension of all personal asset privileges related to Mr. Vincent Langford. Tasha exhaled. And you think, I'm worth giving all that up for? Vincent stepped closer. No, you're not worth it. You're beyond everything. That night, the little house was filled with the sounds of children. Sasha was busy with her homework. Teddy was scribbling on a placemat. Vincent sat on the floor for the first time playing building blocks with Teddy. Tasha stood at the sink, hands in soapy water, watching them with a tight chest. Not because the scene was beautiful, but because for the first time in her life she was afraid to lose it. The next morning, a letter from the Langford legal office arrived directly at Tasha's hand. Pair Clause 19B, regarding the preservation of family values and brand reputation. Ms. Tasha Monroe and her children are requested to refrain from accessing or benefiting from any Langford Trust assets until a clear ruling is made regarding impact on shareholder interests. Tasha gripped the paper, eyes red, but instead of crying, she let out a soft, dry laugh. What is it? Vincent asked. Do you still think you're in love with a waitress? I never thought that. Good, because now you're in love with a CEO. Vincent frowned in confusion. Tasha handed him a laptop. I've been invited to present at the National Tech-Based Sanitation Innovation Conference. I'll showcase my AI model that analyzes stain data to optimize cleaning protocols. Vincent's eyes widened. Then he burst into laughter, amazed. You didn't just cost me my inheritance. You made me want to learn how to mop. National Sanitation Technology Conference, Las Vegas. Tasha stood on stage, the spotlight casting a fierce glow across her determined face. Behind her, the presentation screen displayed the prototype of her CleanTrack AI system, an algorithm she developed using wide-angle cameras and stain data to optimize large-scale cleaning procedures. Don't assume that just because I once held a mop, I can't design automation systems for an entire city. Her voice rang out clear and unwavering. In the audience, heads of silver-hair CEOs of major service conglomerates subtly leaned forward. Vincent sat in the front row, lightly tapping his fingers in rhythm, pride radiating from his eyes. After the presentation, a tech journalist approached Tasha. You hid that you were a single mother while developing this technology over the last 3 years. Why? Tasha didn't flinch. I didn't hide. I didn't mention it because I knew people would focus on my background instead of my capability. But today, I don't need to hide anything anymore. I'm Tasha Monroe, mother of 2, founder of ClearNest Technologies. And I'm not asking for anyone's recognition. I built it. That night, a viral video featuring highlights from Tasha's speech exploded across social media under the title, Former Waitress Makes Wall Street Stand and Clap the Female Engineer, Cleaning Up the Systemic Mess. Over 8 million views in 24 hours. Eleanor Langford watched the video in her office, fingers tightening around the remote. But this time, she didn't sneer. A few days later, a private family meeting was held at the Langford estate in Boston. Vincent was summoned. The boardroom, walnut-paneled walls, high ceilings, portraits of ancestors lining the walls, was filled with cold stares from elderly stakeholders, guardians of a legacy not to be tarnished. Eleanor stood, her voice crisp. Due to non-compliance and personal decisions damaging to the family's image, I propose a permanent revocation of Vincent Langford's inheritance rights. Silence. But Vincent didn't react the way they expected. No anger, no pleading. He pulled out his phone and cast a video to the large screen. Footage appeared Tasha teaching a group of immigrant women how to run a cleaning center she had funded. Vincent spoke. "Is this the person you call a stain on our legacy?" He continued. "I used to live off money, fame, and entitlement. But today I want to live by my own choices. If I must trade fortune to be beside a woman who is strong, independent, and brilliant enough to make an entire industry rethink itself, then I gladly will." Silence again. Eleanor didn't look at him, but the eldest shareholder stood up. "My boy, your grandfather once married a brown-skinned nurse he met during the war. This family isn't new to loving beyond its class. We just forgot." Eleanor looked at him, voice tight. "We chose to forget for a reason. And now it's time to remember," he replied. Scene shift. Tasha received an email from a lawyer representing Eleanor. It wasn't a threat. It was an invitation to talk. In a private meeting between two women, no Vincent present. Tasha sat across from Eleanor, meeting her gaze directly. "You thought I'd drag your son down," Tasha said. Eleanor answered without hesitation. "No, I feared he wouldn't be strong enough to stand beside someone like you." Tasha blinked, but Eleanor continued. "You remind me of myself when I was young, but I lost my husband because I chose ambition over affection. Don't let your daughter have to choose between the two." A moment of silence. Tasha replied, "I won't teach my daughter to hold her head high because of inheritance. I want her to learn it from her reflection." Eleanor nodded slightly for the first time, not as a conqueror, but as an aging mother who knew she had lost, because she had been wrong. Langford and Associates Headquarters, Manhattan Hall. The event, Green Futures, Smart Urban Renewal, was held with grandeur and attended by hundreds of figures from tech, environmentalism, and sustainable investing. Among the rows of white orchid-lined seats was one conspicuously empty chair, marked with a nameplate, Tasha Monroe, CEO, Clearnest Technologies. People whispered, "Will she show up?" And just as Vincent stepped onto the stage as the keynote speaker, the doors at the back of the hall swung open. Tasha walked in. No evening gown, no media entourage. She wore a simple olive green jumpsuit, her hair tied in a high bun, and a translation headset ready for the hearing-impaired staff beside her. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Vincent looked down from the stage, his gaze no longer that of a playboy billionaire, but of a man living a life worth living. The speech began. Vincent didn't talk about assets, portfolios, or accolades. He spoke of trash. "We've thrown away too many things: opportunity, decency, even faith in people who don't meet our standards. Just because they don't dress like us, speak like us, or live in the same zip code." The room fell silent. I used to be one of those people. Then I met a woman who once cleaned the hallway of a bar where I was blacked out drunk. She didn't change me. She made me realize I had to change myself. His eyes locked with Tasha's. And today, I'm not standing here to talk strategy. I'm standing before the world to ask one question. Vincent paused. I took a deep breath. "Tasha Monroe, will you come up here?" Tasha stood. The entire hall seemed to exhale all at once. Vincent stepped down, dropped to one knee center stage, and opened a small box. It wasn't a standard diamond ring. It was a recycled steel band engraved inside. To start over together. I won't promise castles, but I will bring real hands and a real heart. To be your husband, to be a father to the kids, to be the man who keeps his word, to mop floors at Clearnest if you need me to. Laughter broke out, and tears. After a moment of stillness, Tasha nodded. She pulled him up, not with words, but with a long kiss right as the season's first raindrops gently tapped against the hall's glass windows. Scene transition. That evening, headlines flooded the media, from back alleys to ballrooms. Tasha Monroe accepts proposal from billionaire Langford at Tech Summit. But what blew up social media wasn't the ring. It was a behind-the-scenes video of Tasha sharing a cupcake with a catering staffer while the spotlight was on her. Caption, Queen energy isn't loud. It's kind. Opening scene. A late weekend afternoon at the Langford estate in the Hamptons, one of the few places Vincent had ever called home since his wife passed. This time, it wasn't open to high-profile guests or corporate partners, but for something far less conventional, a family dinner with Tasha and her 2 children. Tasha wore a sea blue dress, the one Vincent had secretly commissioned tailored to the exact length she preferred, just enough to move freely between 2 children and step onto any stage. Caleb sat in a high chair gnawing on a cookie. Amani, ever mischievous, flipped through a French menu with chocolate-stained fingers. The air was thick enough to slice. Vincent made the introduction. Mom, this is Tasha and her 2 angels, Caleb and Amani. Margaret Langford, 67, widowed matriarch of a distinguished lineage, offered only a faint lip curl. Ms. Monroe, I've heard you're quite skilled in business, and also very practical. Her voice was light, but the implication hovered like a dark cloud over the dinner table. Tasha didn't flinch. Thank you. I'm not great at pleasing people, but I'm very good at being real. A tense silence followed. Caleb spilled his water. Vincent leaned down to clean it. Tasha held her son's hand. No one scolded. No glares of disapproval. And in that moment, Vincent understood family isn't where perfection lives. It's where imperfection is allowed. After dinner, Margaret called Vincent out to the garden. In her hand was an old photograph, Vincent and his late wife Elise holding hands in the snow. You thought I'd hate Tasha because she's not Elise. Vincent hesitated. She looked him in the eye. Wrong. I was afraid you were using Tasha to run away from Elise. But today, I saw something different in you. Vincent froze. For the first time in years, his mother didn't speak with judgment, but with fear and love, never quite expressed. I don't need a perfect son. I need a man who knows how to love and be loved. Meanwhile, behind the estate, Tasha stood in the bathroom, gently wiping Caleb's face with a damp towel. Amani asked suddenly, Mom, what if Grandma doesn't like us? Tasha knelt at her daughter's level. Then I'll still love you. And anyone who can't see your worth is the one who still needs to grow up. Next morning, as Tasha prepared to take the kids home, Margaret did something unexpected. She stepped out to see them off. Ms. Monroe. Tasha stopped. Margaret held out a bouquet of lavender, Elise's favorite flower, which had long withered in the estate garden. I don't know how to start over, but I don't think Elise would want Vincent living buried in dust-covered memories. She looked at the 2 children, and I've never had grandchildren. If they'll let me, I want to be their grandmother. Caleb waved cheerfully. Amani gave a soft, beautiful smile. Tasha said nothing, but her nod made the autumn sky in the Hamptons shine brighter. On the drive back to the city, Tasha leaned her head against the window. Vincent took her hand. I used to think you were the lesson I had to learn to grow. Tasha smiled. And now I know. You weren't a lesson. You were the blessing I nearly lost if I hadn't changed. The car glided past rows of lavender, their pale purple hue swaying gently in the wind. One chapter closed. Another one was already being written. On an open field west of Rhinebeck, rows of wooden chairs were lined up, each draped with plain white cloth. There was no castle, no Swarovski crystals, but forest birds were singing the scent of earth after rain, and two children laughing as they ran around a wild daisy wreath. Tasha wore a simple lace wedding dress with a square neckline designed to embrace her curvy body without hiding anything. For the first time in his life, Vincent wore no Armani suit, just a white shirt with rolled-up sleeves and a smile with no armor. The homeless folks once helped by Tasha were there. Vincent's financial management team awkward but visibly moved. Margaret draped in a lavender shawl holding Amani's hand. Caleb holding the wedding ring in a recycled wooden box. There was no professional MC, only Pastor Frank, a mutual friend, and a single father himself after his wife died of cancer. Just as Tasha began reading her vows, a soft rumble of thunder echoed. The wind picked up, and the rain started big, steady drops. Someone reached to cover her with an umbrella, but Tasha raised her hand. "Don't. I don't want to cover anymore. Not from the rain, not from tears, and not from love." Vincent stepped forward, his shirt soaked at the shoulders, and looked at her. "You once taught me that love doesn't need to be perfect, so today, I vow that I will still choose to stand by you, whether life brings rain, mud, or blazing sun. Not because you need me, but because I need you to be who I am." Tasha choked up. The wind howled stronger. "And I vow to love without a plan, to believe in tomorrow, even when today lacks light. I don't come from royalty. I don't have a supermodel's body, but I have a heart, and it chose you. From the moment you bent down to tie Caleb's shoelace without a hint of hesitation." The crowd erupted, not from a romantic punchline, but because they saw themselves in this couple people, brave enough to love honestly, plainly, and sincerely. Amani crowned her mother with a daisy wreath, her queen. The wedding reception occurred in the same old barn where Tasha had once hosted her first fundraiser. There was no premium champagne, only handcrafted apple cider. No famous band, just Amani singing "You Are My Sunshine" in her little voice. There was no choreographed first dance, just Vincent and Tasha twirling with Caleb in their arms beneath soft golden string lights. I don't need a fairy tale love. I need a love that gets its hands dirty, dares to walk through judgment, and stays, even when no one's watching. And now I have that. Not perfect, but extraordinary. Built from what no one ever believed could be real.